Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be recapping the season finale of Roswell, New Mexico. I just can't believe we're already at the end of the season. It just seems like it went by so fast. Now there's still no word on season 2 yet, but hopefully we'll hear something about it soon. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. We pick up where the last episode left off with Max and Michael at odds. Michael tells Max about the survivors of the crash and how they'd been held hostage for all these years and how they're all gone now thanks to Alex's father. Max is still against giving Noah the antidote and even goes so far as to shoot the syringe in Michael's hand. Michael freaks out and sends Max flying through a window and then goes to get Noah. Noah turns on Michael, stabs him in the neck with the broken syringe, and then sucks out what's left of the antidote from it. At the bar, Maria tells Liz about her fling with Michael, saying it really doesn't matter because Michael is the guy that Alex has been in love with. Liz is shocked to hear all this, but she tells Maria that you can't help who you fall for. Liz goes to the crash down to get some food, and Noah follows her. She locks herself inside the freezer to try and get away from him. Max wakes up from being thrown through the window and finds Michael. He uses his powers to heal him. Noah breaks into the freezer at the crash down and tries to kill Liz, but she escapes, locking him inside after using some of the yellow powder to keep him subdued. Isabel shows up at Max's house, and Max tells her that he's healed Michael, but that they should leave before he wakes up. They drive off, and Max calls Liz. She tells him about Noah, and he wants her to leave, but she won't. She tells him that she has Noah captured. Noah starts taunting Liz, telling her about secrets that Rosa had, how she told her mother about how she knew that Liz's father wasn't her father, and that's part of the reason that she left town. He ends up breaking out of the freezer and goes after Liz again, but she throws more of the yellow powder at him and he runs off. Liz calls Max and tells him what has happened. Isabel thinks she can track him. Liz tells Max to be safe, and as the camera pulls back, we see that she's been cut with the knife and that she's bleeding. She calls Kyle for help, and he arrives at the crash down to tend to her wound. Max and Isabel meet up with Noah in the desert, and we find out that Noah was actually in control of Isabel the whole time, and he basically arranged this meeting. He snaps his finger, and Isabel faints, and Max tries to shoot Noah, but he stops the bullet in midair. We see that Michael's now awake, and he goes to his trailer. Alex is there waiting on him and attempts to apologize for everything that's happened, but Michael gets a flash and knows that Max and Isabel are in trouble, and he tells Alex that they'll talk about it later, and he runs off. Back at the pod chamber, Noah tells Max about his plan, that he wants to put them back into their pods for safekeeping so that when the other aliens return, he can leverage them for a ride back to their planet. Michael shows up in time to get Noah off of Max, and then while Michael holds Noah off, Max goes out into the desert, and he basically has this Thor moment as he attracts the lightning to him and absorbs the power. He tosses the lightning back at Noah, and in this moment we see that Isabel is dreamwalking him. Noah says he says it's over, isn't it? And Isabel tells him yes. She tells him that she never loved him, and she hands him his wedding ring, and Noah says, "Take care of her, Isabel," and I'm really confused as to who he's talking about. Outside the dreamscape, Noah falls to the ground dead as Michael and Isabel join Max out in the desert. While all of this is going on, we see Kyle at a gun supply store. We see him attempting to buy a gun. He's clearly really messed up as he talks to the clerk about how everything's changed him in the past few months. Back at the pod chamber, Isabel tells them about her moment with Noah, and she tells them what he said to her about taking care of her, and she wonders who he was talking about. Max is really strange acting, and he tells them that they don't need to live in the past, they don't need to worry about this. He ends up grabbing Michael's hand and heals the injury that Michael had. Michael asks him what he's doing, and that people will notice, and Max really doesn't seem to care. Liz goes to Max's house and she finds the doors broken. She freaks out, but then she hears Max behind her. She runs out to him and they kiss, and he tells her that Noah's dead and that they're safe, and they go back inside and they fall into bed. Back in the desert, Isabel and Michael talk about their relationships, and Michael tells her all about his history with Alex and tells her that despite it all, he loves Alex and he probably always will. Isabel notices something, and they find Noah's pod chamber and they go inside to check it out. They see his pod and it's covered in a blanket. They pull the blanket off, and inside the pod is a body. Now the camera closes in and we see that it's none other than Rosa. At Project Shepherd, Alex's father sneaks up on Kyle and shoots him. He turns around and Kyle gets back up. He's been wearing a bulletproof vest. He pulls his gun on Sergeant Maines, and then he ends up stabbing him with a syringe that will put him into a medically induced coma. Back at Noah's pod chamber, Max is horrified to find Rosa's body in the pod. They try to figure out why Noah had her there and what this means. Max wants to tell Liz, but Isabel tells him not to, that it'll haunt her to know that Noah's been keeping her sister's body there as basically a trophy. Max wonders how long Rosa's been dead before Noah put her in the pod, and Michael pretty much shuts down the conversation, saying he cannot resurrect a girl who's been dead for over a decade. Michael goes to the bar and he meets up with Maria. They kiss and she tells him that they really need to talk. He tells her that they will, but he needs to do something first. He grabs the guitar and starts to play. I thought this was kind of strange, but then I realized he probably hasn't been able to do this because of his injury. And I'm really confused about this love triangle that Michael's in the middle of. I get that he's into Maria, and all throughout the episode he's been talking about his deep love for Alex. So this was really unexpected. Now Liz goes to Rosa's grave and she's kind of talking to her, and it's pretty much in this moment that I realize that the song playing over the scenes is Here With Me by Dido, although it's sung by someone else, and really, honestly, I may or may not have squealed a little at this revelation. We see Max at Noah's pod, and he reaches into the pod to pull Rosa out. He puts his hand over her to resurrect her, and then we see that Liz kind of feels this at her sister's grave, and she runs off knowing that something's wrong. We quickly see Isabel at home. She kind of looks kind of scary. She's using her power to knock a picture of she and Noah off of a shelf. Then we see Alex waiting for Michael outside his trailer. Michael, meanwhile, is still back at the bar with Maria, and she kind of notices that his hand is healed. Liz arrives in the desert looking for Max, and she's calling out his name. She turns around to see Rosa walking out of the pod chamber alive and well. They hug, and Rosa tells her not to be afraid. Liz asks where Max is, and Rosa just kind of looks at her sadly. Liz rushes into the pod chamber to find Max lying on the ground dead. Now that was one intense finale, and while they did tie up some loose ends, we still have so many more questions, and I'm just going to be so upset if this isn't renewed. I need to know more about where the main three came from, more about Noah's plan for Rosa, why it was a priority to keep her safe, what the heck is going to happen with the Maria, Michael, Alex love triangle, and really what's going to happen with Rosa now that she's returned. I certainly hope you guys will check this one out on the CW app, give it all the views so that the network knows to renew it. It's been absolutely great recapping these this season, and hopefully we'll return for another season. Thank you so much for watching. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, be sure and check that out. There's daily reviews and recaps posted. And let me know what you thought about this episode and the season in general by posting a comment below.